Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you in another video. All right, so I'm listening to everybody talk about certain teams that are starting off, with a bad energy surrounding them, and other teams look like they're doing fantastic in terms of the aura and the energy, and you can see the difference from team to team to team to team. But what I'm here to say is, it's a very long season. Very long season. And a lot of what we're looking at is not as it seems. A lot of what we're going to see at the start of the season, I think, could potentially not carry over into the middle and end of the season because a lot of teams, as we've discussed many times, have yet to actually build their vision. What they actually had in mind for their team wasn't possible during the summer when basically no one was able to make any trades. Now, what everybody's basically been waiting for is to see players on the floor so that their value can be defined. Because once you know what a guy actually looks like out there, then you could say, okay, this is what he's doing, this is how he's doing, he's shooting this percentage and that, and you know, we can offer him as this, as opposed to just a hypothetical. Right now is pieces that are basically standing still, who we can say this guy can give you 28 points, this, that, and the third, and we know on average he does this, this, and this, as opposed to when the season starts and he's actually down there. We're like, okay, we're trading guys that have these numbers attached to them. He did this last night. He's feeling like this today. This is the shape he's in. These are the type of things that put a real defining price on things. So that's what everybody's waiting for. To see a lot of the players who have great contracts, guys that are like rookies who are on like $3 million contracts that play like $8 million guys, or some of these other players who are on really good contracts, you have to see them run around in order to effectively get the most value for them in trade. As to where certain contracts like Russell Westbrook's maybe, or Bogdanovich, certain guys who are at a set price, it's easier to move them because their price is beyond what it is you expect them to play. So it's like, regardless of whether or not he's playing well or not, that's not the point of acquiring the contract. You're acquiring the contract because it's at a certain price or a certain year length, right? So you don't care to see him. But those are not the players that are going to make the moves happen. Those are not the players that are desirable for which a trade is going to be made. So a lot of trades that will get made, trades that were supposed to be made, we're waiting to see the price tag on these guys that they really, really desire. So that's what I'm here to tell you. A lot of these teams that are really, really happy, some of those pieces may get moved. A lot of those teams that are really, really sad, some of those pieces will get moved. And some of these teams that are incomplete, it's going to be about whether or not they can complete their vision and then from there make it gel. So I wonder if those teams that are incomplete are going to be able to succeed in what it is they're trying to do, because a lot of these other teams don't have that problem. They're together. They're starting the season with a certain intent, and whatever they're starting the season running is the stuff they're going to be running into the season. So for those incomplete teams, those teams that haven't completed their vision, yeah, that's what it's about. Whether or not they can put it together, first off, and then can they make it come together in time for the playoffs? And then, of course, there's health. Health makes all the difference in a lot of these situations. We're seeing teams start off, some of them with some of their key pieces missing, guys coming back from injury, things like that. And obviously, throughout the course of an 82-game season, injuries do happen. So adjustments will be made in that regard, and that may affect what we see as well. So a lot of what we're seeing, unfortunately, just will not remain just off the strength of that. So while I look at certain teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Boston Celtics, and it looks like they're doing very bad right now, and that could potentially carry forward, for sure, you would see that logically is something that may hurt them on the court. But you can also see opportunities for them to make moves and look totally different by the end of the season because of their circumstances. I look at a team like the Phoenix Suns, and I was listening to Shannon and Skip talk about DeAndre Ayton, and it's clear to me that he's not happy there. It's clear to me that he wasn't in on all of this that took place in regards to him getting signed. He thought he was going to the Indiana Pacers, and he was excited about joining that franchise. And I think he would still like to be elsewhere right now. So while there's no trade demand in place and no one's murmuring about him being moved just yet, that is definitely on the way. That's 100% something reasonable to think. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% going to happen, because he could very easily change his mind and get happy, and that's it. He's under contract. But what I'm telling you is things look really, really uncertain in Phoenix, with Jay Crowder on the way out, and Sarver obviously in the scandal. Chris Paul getting older. As we talked about, the Phoenix Suns could look very different very soon. So I think that that's something reasonable. Obviously, they were in the mix for Kevin Durant when that was a rumor. And, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that DeAndre Ayton is going to eventually want out of there. So that's something to pay attention to. He just signed that contract. I don't know what the stipulations would be in regards to him being moved, how soon they could do it, or if that would even happen at all. But it is something that I'm considering right now, because looking at how that energy is going over there. And then I think about names like Jakob Poeltl and say he still hasn't been signed. I look at Kyrie Irving, say he still hasn't been signed. It's just stuff around the league that you could take a couple of those pieces, slap them together, and suddenly turn a good team into a complete contender. Now, I'm not saying that would be possible numbers-wise, but what I'm saying is there are things that can be done that can shift the entire NBA. And some of those things look like they're on the verge of being possible because of situations and circumstances. I look at Kevin Durant. I don't think his situation is much different than DeAndre Ayton. And for all I know, they get swapped for one another. That makes a lot of sense to me right now. Of course, you'd have to add things to that. But if for some reason KD wants out, now his path to Phoenix just got significantly more possible, believe it or not. So that's something that you know what I'm saying? It's just stuff that you can start seeing. It's like, if Ayton really wants out, if he really wants out, that right there, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. Does KD really want out? You guys know I think he does. Now, does he want to go to a Phoenix team with no DeAndre Ayton? I would not. But I'm looking at the situation. I'm saying, well, what else can they get? Again, Jakob Poeltl was sitting right there in San Antonio. I would snatch him up and add him to the mix, have him replace Ayton, and then my situation's straight. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's things you can do if you're Jones in Phoenix. Change the whole landscape and still keep your timeline straight. In the event that Sarver is on his way out anyway, you probably want a fresh look on a lot of things. And the most important thing beyond everything else is to just make sure Devin Booker is cool. He's happy. Chris Paul, make sure his contract makes sense. And so, I don't know, man. With Ayton looking unhappy and KD basically saying the only reason why I'm here is because no one could get a trade for me, that just looks like a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. The only thing that would keep that from happening is Brooklyn saying, of course, I'm obviously not giving up Kevin Durant for DeAndre Ayton. But all Kevin Durant has to do is look over and say, Ayton wants out of Phoenix. I said I wanted to be there. Get the trade done. Like, that's all that really has to happen at this point. If for some reason something were to take place. Now, Ayton might have that contract that might mess up the situation with Ben Simmons. And, I think that might have that extension going there. So I don't know. That might not be possible. But there's still ways of making that happen. Of course, again, San Antonio, you can always just slip Ayton there and then get the requisite amount of pieces from somewhere else if you want to add a fourth team to the situation. The point is, Ayton can be moved, and KD can be moved to Phoenix if for some reason that happens to be on those players' mind going forward. So, I don't know. I think KD, looking at him in the press conference, just flipping back to the team I always talk about, I think he's really optimistic that the Nets can be decent, but I'm also optimistic that he thinks there are other options that are better for him. So the problem with going to Phoenix, if he does this, is that Phoenix is going to have to attach a lot of picks to Ayton in order to make that happen. If I'm the Nets, I'm going to want picks. Ayton's not going to get it done, obviously. But the Nets have said they wanted to be a win-now team, so maybe they want Bridges, maybe they want Ayton. Obviously, they're not getting Booker. They're definitely not getting Chris Paul. But in the event that something like that were to take place, the thing that you don't want to do if you're KD is leave yourself with absolutely no flexibility and just Booker and Chris Paul's contracts as a means of your cap. That's worse than your Brooklyn situation right now, in my opinion, because at least Ben, is young and is a complete monster. You know what I mean? As it pertains to when he's 100% healthy, defensively he's going to help you. Offensively, he does a lot that doesn't get mentioned. So when you talk about what you're leaving, Kyrie Irving, Obviously he's coming off the books if for some reason they don't sign him. So at least that $36 million, you could very easily see yourself bringing anybody to you, really. It could be Ayton, you know what I mean? You could actually slip him in at that point. So there's a lot of different things the Nets can do that I think leaves them a bit more flexible than what they could potentially be if he gets moved there for Ayton. So as I sit up here and dream and create all this in my head, I just try to weigh the options for both sides. But at the end of the day, if Ayton wants out and KD wants there, yeah, we can run with that. So that's what we do here, man. Put things together, look at what possibilities and things of that nature. Looking around at the rest of the league, I'm just very much curious to see who else is curious about changes being made on their teams. The Indiana Pacers are a team that's been long talked about and wanting to move Miles Turner. I've been hearing a lot more murmurs about his name as of late. I think they're starting to ramp it up again, trying to get him moved before the start of the season. Because point blank period, they just have too many upside bigs. And, there's no reason for them to have to play behind a guy that they don't want to pay at the end of the season. So him having most of the season go by the wayside last year with injury, I think they would just rather not have him on the roster to start the season. Don't even risk it, because it's not like you're putting him out there to say, okay, here, you can show what you can do. No, he came back from injury at the end of the season and people were able to see him healthy. So it's no reason to start the season with him with the intent of people seeing him. But the risk of him getting hurt, it's not like the Lakers and Westbrook, where Westbrook is like the most durable guy. There's a good chance you send him back out there, he gets hurt immediately, and then you can't trade him. So that can mess up things big time for the Pacers. So I think they want to get Miles Turner traded now. And if I'm the Lakers, I'm looking at the situation and I'm saying I don't want Miles Turner at all, but Buddy Hield is a piece that I would like to revisit and take a look at, because we could use the shooting. I don't know that we can get him without throwing in both picks, and I'm certainly not up for giving away anything that would ultimately pull me away from the Kyrie Irving sweepstakes. But if we can land Buddy Hield somehow without giving up those 2 picks, I think that's something the Lakers should try to kick the can on, depending on how that looks contractually. Buddy's contract ain't the best thing in the world. You guys know I'm not the biggest Buddy Hield fan, but I do think he's a part of this vision of this team, and I want to see the complete vision of this team. They've been trying to get this dude here for 3 years. He's a big part of what it is that Bron thinks is going to help us win a championship, and I'd like to know what that looks like. I really would. So even though I'm not huge on Buddy Hield, I think there are other shooters I'd like to take a look at, including Eric Gordon over in Houston. Kind of makes more sense. I think we can probably get him as well. Not both, but he's somebody we can do the same deal for, because his role in Houston doesn't really make any sense, to be honest. Makes no sense. He's a player who should be in a situation that's more equipped for a veteran at this point. He's a guy who's it's probably his early 30s or very late 20s, but he's been in the league for like 11 years, so he's probably a little older than that physically. So he needs to be in a situation where it's time to play with some vets and win. Now, it doesn't mean that the Houston Rockets are a team that can't win, because honestly, I think they have more talent than most. But it's just very early for all those guys. This ain't the year for that just yet, in my mind. But 2-3 years from now, they could win the championship with all the talent they got, honestly. But nevertheless, that's not real right now, and I think that Eric Gordon would be better suited in our situation, to be honest with you. I definitely think that. So, like I said, some of these pieces, because we need shooting, GMs are not going to give them up without giving us those picks. And I don't think giving up those picks is something we should consider. We have to hold on to both of them and Russell Westbrook to get Kyrie Irving. But everything else that we have on the table that we're, looking at, if we compare it together with a second-round pick or several second-round picks, I really wouldn't care to give up second-round picks, because we can reacquire those very easily. That's the thing that I want to share in regards to my opinion. I don't think second-round picks should be valued like first-round picks at all, and I don't think the league values them either. Because we have some of our best guys have been undrafted guys. not second round picks. We skip that entire process and find better talent behind the second round. Most people tend to do that right now. The best talent doesn't generally get found in the second round. So if we have second round picks, we can just pile them all together. That doesn't seem like a problem, because I look at that and say, okay, our scouts gonna make up for that. We can go over the next 3 or 4 years without second round picks and still find the best guys in that range. We will find them. They'll go undrafted. We'll pluck them. We'll develop them. And we'll continue to have that talent range without those picks. In fact, the removal of the second round is something that I wonder if it's actually going to be a thing. And I'm saying that I know nobody's murmuring. This is coming from my own brain, literally my own brain. No one's ever thought of this. This is my own crap. But the second round of the draft and all the picks attached, the value of that is really in limbo to me, because of the fact that the Lakers and the other teams keep finding these undrafted guys without the second round. Why do we need a second round? Don't need one. You know, most of these draft picks that go in the second round are guys that are drafted overseas that are not meant to come over. Good half of the second round is guys that are names that you will never ever see. And then the undrafted guys are the ones that you actually want. They don't get drafted because of the fact that they're going to be paid right away. It has nothing to do with their talent or whether or not they could be used. Versus the guys that they're drafting overseas has nothing to do with their talent or whether or not they could be used. And so because we understand that, and so many of those picks are being wasted in that way, I'm evaluating why the second round is even necessary. Take those guys, throw literally all of them straight into the G League, put them in some type of pile of tournament or something like that, and then just pluck them like you need to, because you're finding Mac McClungs, I'm seeing Caruso's, finding all these guys, Austin Reeves, these dudes, and no draft picks for them dudes. No. And then you got the guys get drafted with the second round that you never ever see. You know, names that I've only seen once. They might have seen their jersey and that was it. They stayed overseas their entire time. So, evaluate the second round, because we're pushing around these second round picks, and then the value of them can go for anywhere from a very decent player to cash considerations. And it's just like something that I think needs to be taken a look at. You know, when we talk about how people are hoarding picks and how hard it is to get picks and the amount of picks you can have versus second round picks and all that. Do second round picks hold the right amount of value, or does it still matter the same way? I don't know. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. You don't even really need a second round. But anyway, that's how I'm looking at the situation. The pool is vast. And not only that, but it does something weird to their value. Because now it's like it's a stigma on you financially and theoretically because you didn't get drafted. But it's always been understood that this scenario has been taking place. I've been watching the drafts very closely my whole life. Like since 1994, I've been watching drafts. So it's like, these dudes half of them don't even come to the league. You know what I mean? And you only get like one or two Nick Van Axels or Eddie, whoever the guys are. Nothing unnecessary. They all should be eligible to be in the NBA. They all should be eligible for the G League, and they should all be pluckable for these franchises, period. So that's what I got to say, man. That's how I'm looking at it. I think more emphasis needs to be flushed into the G League, and less of an emphasis on the class level of players. Remove the class level entirely. Oh, he's a first round pick, he gets more money. Yeah, that's cool. We know he's the best guy. That's great. But once you start saying, well, he's in the first round and he's a lottery pick and then he's not, it's like, okay, now can he live up to that? We've seen too many Anthony Bennett cases, way too many Andrew Wiggins cases, guys where they're just not able to show that they're up to that level because of the stigma placed, as opposed to understanding that these are all talented athletes with various levels of greatness. They need to be put in positions where they fit, and then from there they can start cultivating the best versions of themselves with the benefit of great health, which is not within their control in a lot of cases. So they need to be coached in those areas as well, nutrition and all that other stuff, mental health and all that stuff. And that is where the class level and all of this emphasis on player money hurts the mental health. That's where all the emphasis on narratives and all of that hurts the mental health. And that's what I'm putting the emphasis on as a fan, because I get it. I get it in a way most don't, I think. So that's why we speak this way. I don't need to know that Anthony Bennett was the first overall pick. And chances are, if he didn't have that stigma on him, probably would have had a better overall career. Period. So that's what I got to say about that. It's very easy to tell that LeBron and Zion can jump out the gym. We don't need to say, yo, he's better. He's the number one guy. For what? Oh, look what they just did to Jalen Smith. Told everybody he was the number one guy to the last minute. What are they going to do to his mental health? What are they going to do to his development, his confidence? This is a super talented kid who can do a lot of things. But now you're saying he's not as good as that kid because of this. It's like, come on, man, get out of here. And you told us Paulo Ventura was a third guy the whole time. Now all of a sudden he's number one. Who says why? Why? This is a stigma. Come on, get out of here, man. So I've been watching this my whole life. I realize it's been bullcrap the whole time. And so that's what I want to say, man. We got to start respecting the artists that is our athletes in a different way, in a way that helps understand what's best for them as well as what's best for the product. And so that's what I'm looking at. A lot of different angles. So that's what I have to say, man. That's my little soapbox spiel. Of course, there's more to say about the sport itself. But I think at the end of the day, when you start looking at all the scandals and all the different distractions and why teams are starting the season with these different vibes, so to speak, you look at the decisions that are made around the players, not necessarily players themselves. And that is what needs focus, in my opinion. Long faces from some players. I look at CJ McCollum, he's smiling, big smiles. Look at Zion, big smiles. I look at DeAndre Ayton. You know what I'm saying? Look on his face, he didn't look like he was too happy. I look at some of these other players, and granted, who knows what's going on in people's lives? You know what I mean? I don't want to put it out there as if I think that this is directly related to basketball at all times, but it's just the point. It shows the era and the aura of the environment. And these are all athletes coming back from their summertime. They should all be smiling. They should all be happy. They should all be in situations that are fit for them to display what it is they can display. And if it's great enough, they'll rise to the occasion. They'll rise to the top. We don't have to put all this poking and are you good enough? What's up your legacy? We don't have to do all that. The competition itself going to take care of all that. We'll know who's the best because they're going to win. We'll know who's the best because he's going to put on the best efficiency level of scoring or whatever the heck it is. See what I'm saying? And most importantly, we'll start to understand that there is no best. Because that guy can do a bunch of other stuff, and this guy can do a bunch of other stuff, but this guy can't do what that guy can do, and that guy can beat him on that day, and it just becomes something you understand that goes on forever. So, that's why I appreciate it so much. That's why I understand the business of basketball is a short-sighted situation, because business can be removed and the sport still remains. And that is why we understand that this is about forever, not just for right now. So, show a lot of respect to these athletes. Hopefully, they can continue to display what it is that they do without the presence of all this nonsense as we continue to evolve as fans. Media will follow us and what we consider norms. So that's what I hope to help, man. I want to help with that. We change, they change. Video 44. Thank y'all for watching.